Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back into the Spotlight Omaha podcast. We are back after our 4-day hiatus. We appreciate everybody asking when will we be back. We got a great guest for you today. We are brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing. Pixel Fire Marketing is a locally owned company who specializes in creating social media ads, engaging your brand online, and developing websites for businesses, or not only in the Omaha area, but around the United States as well. We're also coming to you live from the Pyramid Contractors Studio. Today, my guest is Brandon Souba from Core Bank. Brandon, thanks for being here, man. Appreciate it.
Excited to be here.
I am excited to have you in another podcast, professional to another. It's been a long time coming for us to do this. I'm glad to talk to you about it. I think we're going to have a ton of fun with this. We're going to talk about banking. We're going to talk about rates. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff. Yep. More importantly, we're going to take people on a half-hour journey. That's going to be a ton of fun. When we talk about Core Bank, Core Bank has a unique approach to things where they take unique members and specialize in some of the banking that we don't necessarily see other banks do. What are some of the unique approaches that you take to banking, and what are some of the unique clients you work with?
So I actually came over to Core Bank for healthcare banking, and so a unique division would have been the healthcare piece. A lot of banks took that on too, and as many doctors and practices that we have in Omaha, there wasn't enough there, I think. So they moved me over to treasury coming the beginning of this year.
Sure.
And I think that's where I've learned more about banking in I just did the math because I'm 2 years at Core now. So 6 years of banking total. And so some of the unique things that we have are bundle deals. So when you think about treasury products, and I'm not going to get too far into that because it's not
Sure.
that much fun, but remote deposit capture, ACH, that kind of stuff. Especially for our healthcare practices, which I still work with, we're able to bundle that up so it's a flat fee and they can use the services as much as they want.
So you say that when you say, it's not that much fun, but I think anybody that's ever met you sees a big personality and you're a fun person to talk to. What is fun about working at, not even necessarily at Core Bank, but in the banking industry for you?
For me, it's customer service. So I come from a huge sales background. I kind of cut my teeth selling countertops for 7 years. And then I did a lot in the networking kind of sales world. And what I enjoy is I'm the banker that you don't think is a banker. So when we talk about anything that's challenging or, like I said, boring services of remote deposit capture, we do it in a fun way. And I look at it more as, hey, let's just be a couple people coming together and taking care of your problems. And I think that's a little different, right? We think
Absolutely.
of bankers being stuffy and huff and always focusing on the bottom dollar. And I don't look at that. I look at the people more.
It'd be almost remiss if we didn't bring this up because it's something that's been popping up throughout banks across the country is the ITM approach.
Yeah.
What is beneficial not only for the members of Core Bank but the bank itself to have ITMs in place versus a teller or a standard ATM?
So I've loved the evolution, and really it was. Well, for here locally, it was credit unions that kind of started doing where you'd pull up in the drive-thru and instead of seeing the window with the tellers in it, you would see a screen.
Yeah.
And they'd pop up. And what that allows is a bank, kind of like ours, community bank, you can have one person serving 2 or 3 locations. So as most places have staffing challenges, things like that, That's kind of where it started. Now, and Core was one of the first in Omaha to do this, but an ITM is an interactive. And so now the screen will pop up. We have a virtual center on the 3rd floor of our main headquarters, and there's somebody manning that from 7 to 7. And if you need help with anything, you can hit a button, they pop on, and it's like you have a personal banker right in front of you. Now, the biggest difference, though, is you could take a stack of checks, cash, put it all in, the machine sucks it in, it's going to divide the cash up, it's actually going to take pictures of the checks, deposit that in your account, and your receipt's going to have the images and the deposit total on there. So back in my teller days in 2006, I believe.
I was going to try not to age you, but go ahead.
People would put money in an ATM and pray that it would get deposited within a week.
Yeah.
And now it's instant. You're talking to somebody while you're doing it, and you're actually getting the receipt that's going to show everything that you did.
I have to ask because it's topical. I don't know if you've heard this, but there's been some power outages in the Omaha area lately. When something like that, and obviously we're seeing a storm season like we haven't seen ever in this area, but when something like that does happen, what are the procedures when we're talking about ITMs, and how does the bank kind of pivot when somehow electricity isn't available?
Yeah, it's going to be a different location. So in all reality, one of our locations was affected by the power outage. They were out from Wednesday I think yesterday was Monday, and they just got power back. They got in the office today for the first time since the storm.
Wow.
And the ATM, it's an ATM at that location that was down. So there's no backup power, anything on those lines. The best I can answer that with is when I was as a teller in 2006, we talked about, we did lose power one time. But we were still able to get the old scan, hand scan machines with the carbon copy.
Right.
We had enough of those around that's how we were doing deposit that day. Now, because of how much technology affects banking, you're down. I mean, there's really not much. And on our teller line, the machine that takes the money, it's not a teller drawer like what you're used to.
Sure.
It puts the money inside of an automatic machine. So again, wouldn't work, couldn't use it. We're not going to hold money just randomly.
Right.
So unfortunately, banking, when the power goes out or the internet, that's a real hinder.
You guys work with personal, business, and private banking. How do those three things differ in your mind?
So personal is going to be you and me. Well, I don't know. You might be a millionaire. I'm not.
Yeah.
So that's going to be just your basic transactions.
So it'd be you and me.
You're right. Checkbook to pay any bills that you might need to check for, online banking with bill pay, all that good stuff. So just your basic banking.
Sure.
Your business banking, that's going to be what I deal with a lot more. These are going to be higher balances. These are going to have products and specialties that they need. So the ACH, remote deposit capture. If you've got 30 checks that you're taking in a day and you can deposit them at your desk that night, have the funds the next day, you're good to go. And then when you talk about private banking, those are your specialties. So your healthcare banking, people that have millions and millions of dollars and have a bunch of investments. So there are teams that are dedicated to those people that have plenty of knowledge to take care of those services.
And when we talk about the private side of it, I mean, what does that process look like if somebody out there is in that category? How do they open up an account, or who do they talk to at Core Bank when having those discussions?
I'm one of those.
Sure.
We do have somebody that is dedicated to the private banking side. So if it's just somebody that's a very wealthy person, maybe they have more investments than businesses, they're going to work with a private banker. It is truly, you call or text them and say, hey, I need a new account opened. Usually that is a specialty account, higher interest rate, possibly. Maybe you get free checks. With our healthcare checking, it was free checks, free ATMs, kind of the whole gamut there. They're going to do that through the treasury services. That's how unique it is.
We guys have 4 different locations and a standalone ATM as well throughout the Omaha area. And you mentioned you haven't been at Core Bank for a super long time. What does growth look like in the last 3 to 5 years for Core Bank in the Omaha area?
So there were a couple branches that I believe they closed, but that would have been older than 5 years.
Sure.
Just recently opened our newest location about a year ago out on 370, 96 and 370 area. Mm-hmm. So we are growing where Omaha's kind of growing.
Sure.
Papillion La Vista is more specific on that, but we're just trying to follow those trends. So I wouldn't be surprised if we're a little more out west in the Gretna area in the next few years.
We're catching up with Brandon Souba here on the Spotlight Omaha podcast, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing inside of the Pyramid Contractor Studio. We've kind of gone through an era where CDs were kind of thought as an aftermarket, and why would you do a CD when you can invest into a money market? And we're going to talk about what happened yesterday in a minute, but you guys are offering a 5.10% CD right now for 9 months, so it's a very short term. How have people utilized CDs in recent memory, and why is this something that's kind of resurfaced over the last couple of years?
So in the past, it's what your grandparents used.
Yes.
They were in a very similar situation, kind of economic wise, that we're in now, right? They saw some challenges. I'm not going to say the Great Depression, but a CD is an opportunity for the bank to have the funds that they can loan against for a longer term. So if we can say, hey, if you trust us with your money for 9 months, 10 years, 8 years, whatever that looks like, we're going to give you a little better rate on it. Well, when rates go down, then the return on on the CDs, it's not the same.
Right.
Because why would you lock up money when you can go borrow money at a lower rate? So that's why CDs, kind of in our high school days,
sure,
they were a joke. I remember I put $1,000 in the CD for, I think it was a year. I made $10 off of it. Now you've got people that at that 5% rate, if you put in $50,000, you're going to walk out with a decent amount after that 9 months.
Yeah.
Now, because of what happened yesterday, and even before that, you are going to see all of the banks taking a pivot on all those. We're going to see it go back a little more normal now because, yeah, we want to lock up your money, but it's not going to be as worth our while because since rates aren't going up, then we really can't offer those higher rates on the CDs.
When you say they're going to be normal and rates aren't going to go up, and I just mentioned you guys are doing 5.1%, is that a higher number than the normal? Is that what you're referring to?
Oh, yeah,
okay.
definitely.
So what has kind of been the standard for a CD over the last decade per se?
I'll give you the example. If you were to go and do a basic 12 months, so a 1-year CD, you're going to be looking at more at 1.5.
Okay.
But and another thing too is we're so skewed on what a rate is really is, right? Because we had mortgage rates that were the lowest they're ever going to be. I'm still riding mine out, and I don't really want to give it up. So when we So when we see a rate at 2.753%, well, now that they're more in the 7 and 8%, our minds think, gosh, that's more than double.
Yeah.
Why would I do this? Well, some people have to, right? Yeah. But that's why the rates really play into, and I'll be honest, media does a great job messing with our heads too on it.
You're welcome.
Right? Thanks. Yeah. Not you. Well, yeah, you a little bit, I'm sure. But it's just what we've seen in the last 5 years is more movement in the rate world than you would normally see in a 10-year.
Well, we've also seen a global-wide pandemic that we've never seen before.
Yeah, we did get that too. Yeah, we got that.
That doesn't help. Talk to me a little bit about the refinancing side of things, because I think it's a word that it gets thrown around a lot with a lot of people not necessarily understanding what exactly it is or how it works. If somebody is one of those very lucky people that didn't get outbidded by hundreds of thousands of dollars for a house they were trying to buy when rates are around the 2 to 3% mark, and they are thinking about refinancing, and to your point, maybe they do need the cash. If we're talking about refinancing after that period, what is that conversation from your, and obviously it's going to be different for everybody, but what does that conversation from your standpoint sound like if, hey, we do need cash, we do have a, let's say, 3% rate on our house, but we really need to refinance at this part? What's some of the advice that you would give somebody like that?
So I'm going to put my mortgage hat on. I did mortgages for 2 years, and I'm going to give you a real life example. My wife and I were talking about this the other day.
Okay.
We want a pool. Deep down inside, we really want a pool. And I'll tell you, with how much they cost, because we did get a kind of a rough bid, you're better to just buy a house with one in it, right?
Yep. Agreed.
But because of where we're at equity-wise in our house, it would be worth more for us to do a cash-out refinance, and it would go up to even a higher rate than what a normal refinance would be. We'd probably go from, we're at a 20-year now, to a 30-year.
Sure.
But we would be able to take all that equity and have cash. And why this works for my brain better is then my pool is paid off. Got to redo the deck then, doing the landscape, and we got to finish our basement.
Yeah.
But if you can pay all that up front in cash with the refinance, okay, my rate goes up, but now I'm still just paying my mortgage.
You're not paying percentages on the other stuff.
You got it.
Exactly.
Or because it would be, well, I've got a loan for my pool, and that's at this rate, and that's how much I got to pay monthly.
Yeah.
Got my car loan, I got all those. For my brain, and I'm also very cheap, but simplistically,
same team.
A cash out refinance gives you the power to keep at one payment. You're just paying off your house, your mortgage, and then have that cash to do other things. Another great example on that, when rates were low, people were doing cash out refinances and investing it. And that kind of threw me off the first person I worked with, because I'm like, okay, you're not really doing anything with this. What's the plan? Then he goes, well, honestly, I can make more off this money.
Because we're in a bull market at the time.
And the rate's low enough that I'm coming out on top. That's not the case right now, though.
Yeah, and speaking of that, we talked about it a little bit at the beginning, but obviously yesterday, a record day in the market for all the wrong reasons. The Dow Jones dipped. Everything, let's just call it everything, basically dipped yesterday. Let's personalize though. When that happens, and obviously you're not investment loaning or anything like that.
Correct.
But when that happens, everybody sees it across the board. What was the response from the banking industry, maybe specifically from Core Bank, when that happens? Is there mass panic? Is there, okay, it's just a Monday, let's see what happens tomorrow? How did that kind of ripple affect your guys' day-to-day business at Core Bank?
So I think legally I have to say I cannot give, I'm not giving any financial advice, but what I can proudly say is Core has been planning for this for the last 6 months.
Okay.
We had kind of a strategy for June, thinking that was when the Feds kind of met again. We had a strategy going, what is this going to look like with all the rates, all the specials that we're doing? What's going to look like? So the conversation that I heard is, and you're going to see this at every bank, we're going to have to go down on that type of CD, right? We're not going to see those rates on there. Our money market might be tiered now, where depending on your balance in there is how much interest you can gain on it versus just a flat 4% with whatever on there. So, and I would hope most banks are doing this, but we plan ahead. You have to. And what's neat is the pandemic was a slap in the face. No one was prepared for it, right? we know now what can happen.
Yeah.
So there are teams that meet constantly. I know my director is in a meeting, I think it's every other week, and they're specifically looking at what are we offering now? How much is that costing the bank? How is that benefiting our customers? And what could we handle if something like yesterday did happen? But I will tell you this too. When it comes to just banking, like what I do, the business banking, it's not going to be hurt by these crashes.
Yeah.
Those are your investments. Those are where you've kind of gambled to have your money out there. And I mean, the last few months, if you've watched your 401k and everything, it's just went up and up and up.
The S&P 500 was doing well. Yes.
Yeah. And I bet on that a lot.
Yeah. When we talk about, and I'm going to use the dirty word, a recession, a possible, because that's kind of the word that was kind of thrown around with what happened yesterday. When you start planning for something like that, and obviously that's a much larger scale than you and I sitting here talking core bank,
Absolutely.
The state of Nebraska as a whole. We're talking about the nation and possibly the global-wide economy. What are some of the conversations when you're having discussions with business owners about, hey, it's an election year, let's talk about a recession? There's a lot, right?
Yep.
World War III is out there just being made a meme of as we talk about it. But
Russia? I don't know.
when there are serious discussions like this being had, and there are some of that's real and some of it's not, obviously. But when somebody comes in, and we all know a business owner that's got conspiracy theories up the wazoo. Anyway, what do those conversations sound like when you're onboarding a new client who says, "Hey, there are a lot of scary things out in the world right now. How do I prepare for this?"
So again, the more exciting stories would be an investor sitting in here that's dealing with that.
Yeah.
But the conversations I have, more people are concerned about fraud and FDIC insurance.
Okay.
And for the banking world, the treasury side, it was very beneficial because of the awareness aspect when the Silicon Bank failed.
Yeah.
Because people realized, okay, this still can happen.
Yeah.
Right? I think we get in our heads, we're so good, no one can touch us, no one can mess with us.
Is that
and then
because the
when something
FDIC
happens-
backing? Is that why that kind of thought process is out there? Hey, we're federally backed. It can't happen to us.
Oh, 100%. No, people don't even worry about that.
Okay.
Right? Banks can't fail.
Sure.
In 2008, they failed, and then, the bigger banks bailed them out. The government bailed them out.
Look how big their sign is.
You can only bail out so many times. And so I think that was a good kind of realization that, Mr. Business owner, you've got $1 million, but it's just sitting. If things went bad, $250,000 is all you're going to get of that.
Sure.
So we have a product that spreads that out so that we are fully insured on all of the money that you have. So to have that conversation before, people scuffed. Now it's, I want that.
That's a reality, yeah.
And then the fraud. I would have to say right now, probably one of the biggest things I focus on is fraud. And the scariest piece of it is, so if you call and you want to add a signer to your account and I talk to you, I know your voice, I know who you are, we've worked together.
It's personal.
I'm going to make it happen. AI could take your voice
Sure.
to the point, and this is extreme, but it could take it
Make
to
sure
the
you're really
point
excited to do a podcast
that
every
we're
day.
talking, right? Yeah, let's get it out there. My voice is all over the place.
Yeah.
But that's where we're going into, and we've gone against securities and people hacking and all of that for years. But just how quickly technology is now, the banks have to stay in front of that. And luckily, we're very much on top of it at Core.
Sure. What when somebody's facing fraud, what are some, I guess, Q&A type scenarios, or like, hey, this, like, what are some of the scenarios you face, and how have you guys at Core kind of attacked that?
Email hacking. Email hacking is the one, because
Don't click on the link.
that's probably where it starts. But what's funny is you can have somebody watching your email for months and not do a thing. And it could be as simple as they put bank in search, and somebody's email that has bank in it comes up, and it's back and forth about a transaction or something like that. Well, then what they could do is come in and say, hey, this is so-and-so, and I need to add this CPA or something like that. So what we've really put in place in ours is, until we're talking face-to-face, not face-to-face, but until we're talking to the owner of the account, we don't do anything.
And as far as I don't know if hurdles is the right word. As far as some of the problems that are facing people out there that are business owners, what are some of the scams or schemes that you've kind of seen? You kind of alluded to one there that people are really taking advantage of, or maybe not getting caught as frequently until it's too late. Do you have an example of something like that?
Yep, wire fraud. Wire fraud is probably the most common. And the reason for that is once the wire goes through, that's almost instant funding to the other account. So it's the fastest way to move money from A to B.
Yeah.
Pull that out of there and fly.
And it's gone. It's cash.
It's gone.
Yeah.
Yep, it's gone.
We're catching up with Brandon Souba from Core Bank here on the Spotlight Omaha podcast, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing inside the Pyramid Contractors studio. I want to talk about you for a second because you're a pretty unique and interesting guy. I don't want to talk to Siri. I don't know. My phone just did that. But when you do as much as you do a ton of networking. You're involved in a ton of nonprofit groups around Omaha. You do podcasts. You do a bunch of stuff at Core Bank. What is it about what you do that kind of gets you up in the morning and keeps you motivated?
I love people. I 1 year in middle school had a perfect attendance, and my grades would not reflect that I had a perfect attendance. And my mom's like, "What the hell?" I just like talking to my friends. I like going out there. So a lot of what I do, sales, and I love sales too. So a lot of what I do is being around people. And you can do the classic, I like to help people. I'm a real estate agent because I like to see people get the greatest investment of their life. That's semi-true, right? But between countertops and banking, it's more the people.
Yeah.
I just like dealing with people.
Absolutely.
And then I remember my dad, very, very musical. He's got a lot of music equipment. And when I was a kid, we'd go to D-Rocks, which was connected to the pawn shop at the time. And he bought a mixer board and a synthesizer. And I remember sitting at his little keyboard and honestly making podcasts before podcasts existed.
My kids love being in here.
Yeah. And it's just, I really enjoyed that. So it was with BNI that I thought, my dad has, it's actually the
same
mixer.
One?
Yeah, same
nice.
one.
Okay.
I go, "Hey Dad, can I, have that with a microphone?" And I started just kind of doing a couple networking podcasts. I was challenged by the franchise owner, "Can you do one a week?" And I was like, "Sure, we'll try that." It's harder than it is.
Try doing one a day.
Yeah. No, that's why I'm here today.
Yeah,
right?
thanks, buddy. Appreciate you.
And so we took that on, and it was able to work. I used to edit it myself. That's not my forte.
That's why we do this live.
Yep. And so then we actually brought somebody on with a radio background. He started doing the editing, Ray, and that really is what took off. And so when I left BNI, I still had that bug. I wanted to be behind the mic.
It's addictive.
And so I was able to continue podcasting with Pixel Fire, ironically. Yep. That's one that I do. And 1 year, and this is one of those stories of I had somebody on my podcast and they knew somebody, and then I ended up doing an international radio show.
Okay.
And the concept of it's IBGR, it's still running. But from Monday to Friday, a microphone would be passed around the world 24 hours, and it would be business owners, networking professionals talking about these different things. And so I was in the people and kind of networking one, but at 11 o'clock every Thursday for a whole year, I went live around the world. I think it was Lebanon that passed me the mic.
Sure.
And I started us off in America. I had guests on there, and it was all virtual. I kind of upgraded some equipment through that time.
Probably had to.
It was a phenomenal year. It was a lot of work. And it was just something I couldn't sustain going forward, but I learned a lot about interviewing and just even being a better podcaster.
You could probably relate to this then too, because I mean, I get a message or a text a day. How do I start a podcast? How do I get into sports talk radio? How do I do what you do? And I'm always more than happy to help somebody out. But people don't understand how time consuming this is, because you got to prep for the interview, you got to interview the person, you got to book the guest, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What did you do personally to kind of make the time available throughout that year to do your podcast?
So every Monday night, I put my script together. And I started reaching out to guests. I don't really have a time frame on that. I just had about 5 or 6 people that I would reach out to, and then I'd start booking them out throughout the year.
Sure.
I do want to share this though, because you talk about the time consuming. So while I was doing that, so that was every Monday night, and then Tuesday night I would finalize everything. I'd email my guests Wednesday night, make sure they were all good. Sometimes we'd even have a call to go over a couple things, and then we'd do the show Thursday. Well, I'm a big Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fan.
Who isn't?
And this guy on a Facebook group that I was in, I want to start a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle podcast. And so I messaged him. I was like, "Hey man, I'm in. I do this. I would love to throw this into the mix." Well, he was in Utah. We actually became somewhat friends, but we were reviewing the comics to the show. Okay. And we're talking the 1985 show. And so then I was watching
2-3
a
episodes.
20-minute show, making my notes or reading a comic and making my notes and all these things. And it was only about a couple months. And I'm like, I can't do this.
I don't love the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles nearly as much as I thought I did.
No, nor did I have as much knowledge as I thought.
Yeah,
he would rattle stuff off and he's like, well, in episode 17, they do this.
Minute 4 36 seconds.
I don't remember.
If there's anything that you could start a podcast about tomorrow that you haven't yet, what would it be?
Oh my gosh, what would it be?
I mean, I didn't know the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles thing, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'd still ride that one too. Oh man, that's a tough one. That's a tough one.
I've done it.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
And this is up to date,
sure,
right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say
We're
this
live.
necessarily. Bluey.
Okay.
Obsessed with Bluey right now.
I think it's the perfect show.
It's amazing.
For what it's trying to accomplish. It checks every single box.
Yes.
As a new father, I'm watching this and going, "There's never been a cartoon like this in our lives." It is designed for parents, but has the illusion that it can keep kids occupied.
Now, did you watch? It's the
newest. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay. Did you cry?
Who didn't?
Okay.
Because everybody's had that experience, right? Where they actually sell the house and you move.
Yeah.
That never happens. You never get back in. So it was like
bandits throwing the for sale sign and we're all bawling. I'm like, this is a 20-minute Australian cartoon that I'm crying at right now. Love it.
The most the thing I related to the most is the octopus episode where Chloe's dad is kneeling on the couch. He goes, "Oh, my knees," and I was like, "That's my life. That's my life." Right there. No, it's incredible. Hey man, we're kind of hitting that point where I didn't think we were going to talk about Bluey today, but I'm here for it. We're kind of hitting the point where we like to turn it off for the day. Is there anything about Core Bank that we haven't made? What is the biggest benefit of opening an account at Core Bank?
Yep. So I'm going to go on the business side specifically because I know you network a lot like I do.
Stay in your realm.
The businesses that are that 250,000 plus that are looking to pay vendors and are really blowing up, or even that contractor that just scored a couple $1 million deals. There is nothing better to have on your side than a banker that you can contact at any time.
Yeah.
And as much as networking and all the things that I do, we have a phenomenal support service back at headquarters that is always available during work hours, of course. And so that's where the main question I ask people is, could you text your banker right now and get an answer? And a lot of people can't.
Most people can't.
So that would be the big thing. If you want a banker that you can trust and become friends with, that'd be me.
Maybe you already gave me your answer. What's the best Bluey episode?
Oh, okay, wait, nope. Granny's. Original Granny's. Granny Mobile is also another good one.
Sure.
But I am not a political person, but I proudly wear my Rita and Janet 2024 shirt all the time.
Yeah, you got to pay for those beans, Janet.
Slipped on my bean.
My personal favorite is the Pavlova episode where Bandit is the chef. It's great.
My wife wants to make Pavlova.
I didn't know what it was before the episode. So
to make it.
If you are a new parent, please start watching Bluey. You're going to appreciate it. It'll give you some time. There's even an episode where no noise is even happening and it keeps kids distracted. It's great.
Yep.
But if you are a business owner and looking to open up a new account, check out Core Bank and Brandon and his team. The website is scrolling across the bottom. You can find all of their locations there. Thanks for doing this today, man. I really appreciate it. We'll be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. in our normal time slot, talking to a new, unique business owner that's taking an older approach to things and kind of turning it on its ear. We're excited to talk to you tomorrow at 11 here on the Spotlight Omaha podcast, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing inside the Pyramid Contractor Studios.